Hello, and welcome to this special edition of Purely Positive. I'm the show's director and executive producer, Jazz C. We first want to thank everyone for following, liking, and sharing all of Season 1 and the Season 2 episodes. They were as much fun in making as they were informative and inspiring to watch. LJ started this show with hopes to bring in the good and positive deeds by others in the community and abroad to the forefront of media, not to be lost amongst the bad and sometimes violent news that we see in our daily lives. Since we began the show, we've seen the pop-up of other positive shows, even mainstream news segments who are taking more responsibility in what is felt to be what the public really needs. And to them, we say welcome. But who is LJ Thomas? We know she's the creator and host of Purely Positive, which brings stories you have grown to like and love, insight on these guests as to what makes them do what they do, what inspires them to be purely positive. For today's season finale, LJ will share with you things personal and private as to what motivates her to do what she does. So sit back and enjoy this season's final episode. Who is LJ Thomas? So here we are, LJ.
Yes, here we are.
This is where everybody gets to learn a little something about you
Yeah.
and your purely positiveness. So tell us, who is LJ Thomas?
Well, okay, LJ Thomas is a girl that was born in Baltimore, Maryland, 1967. And I'm a country girl. I was raised in Florence, South Carolina. So anybody who knows anything about Florence, it's a small town. But if you've gone to Myrtle Beach, you pretty much passed through Florence, especially if you drove either 20 or I-95. But I'm an author. I'm a graphic designer, a host, Purely Positive, a wife, and a mother.
Okay. And tell us about when you were growing up as a little girl. Did you have any particular dreams? Did you see yourself being a host? And what did LJ Thomas?
Host? No. Definitely not. But I did see myself, well, first of all, I've been writing since I was 7 or 8 years old. Mm-hmm. So I always knew I was going to be a writer or an author. But as I got older, I saw myself working in the corporate world. I saw myself working at a big company as an executive, but I didn't quite figure out how I was going to do writing and being an executive. I didn't figure out how I was going to marry the two of those together, but I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Okay. So now growing up, you were the oldest of 6, right?
Yes.
So tell us about that. What was it like growing up being the oldest of 6?
Well, it was never dull. We were our own play group. But I would have to say it was challenging. I'm the oldest, and we're all like a year apart.
Okay.
So that made for very interesting things. I got in trouble a lot because I was the oldest. You're always supposed to know what everybody else is doing, even when you're not around. How? I don't know how my mother figured that out, but that was the situation. So I have bonds with certain ones. My brother right after me, I have a great bond with him because he's crazy. But I love him to death. I love all of them to death. And then, of course, my baby sister. That's my little heart. But it was exciting. We always did stuff we had no business doing. And apparently, I found out a few years ago, I was a tomboy. Go figure.
That was going to be my next question. So growing up, was LJ the girly girl or was she the tomboy?
Well, I thought I was the girly girl. But I also remember, climbing trees, walking on houses, doing things, that most other little girls didn't do. I have to admit, I am athletically challenged. Before the MS. Sports, not my forte. I'm a writer.
So you
So
were more into academics.
definitely, definitely. But I always see when you're the oldest and you're a girl and you have two brothers right after you, you have to do things before them or you have to best them. Or then you got to put up with listening to their mouths all the time. So, climbing trees and doing stuff that other little girls didn't do, I did first. And that's how I guess I got to be a tomboy.
Okay. So now, when you were in school,
Mhm.
what were you a member of any of the special clubs or anything? What kind of?
In high school, yeah. Well, number one, I was inducted into the National Honor Society in seventh grade, I think, something like that.
Wow.
I and that carried over through high school as well. I was a member of the library club, books. I was a member of FHA, believe it or not, Future Homemakers of America.
Okay.
I knew I was gonna have kids one day, and I volunteered my time after school. I had early dismissal, and so it was a time killer for me to volunteer time in teachers' classrooms or in the guidance office or things like that. And those were the things that I did in high school. In middle school, I was very shy, didn't talk to anybody, just did my work and pretty much stayed to myself. Elementary school, oh, nobody even knew who I was.
Okay. So now, what was your plans for after high school? What did you think you wanted to do?
After high school, let's see. I knew I wasn't getting married.
Oh, you knew this.
Oh, I knew that.
Okay.
I was not going to be marrying anybody's son. Okay. I did not want to get pregnant and have any kids. I decided that I was going to work a corporate job. I was going to be an executive. I was going to write. I was going to adopt two children, a little girl first, and then a little boy. The little girl at 28, the little boy at about 30, 31 years old. I was going to live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. So I guess Atlanta is blessed to have had you because your your intentions were Charlotte. Okay.
Yes.
So now you said you saw yourself as being into the corporate world. So what was your first job when you got out of high school?
When I got out of high school, my first job was I worked as an assistant in a jewelry store. I was working in the office. Now, ironically, I got this particular job because I went to the jewelry store to order my class ring. And the manager was so impressed with me, she offered me a job.
Really?
Yeah.
So you was working in the industry of bling bling before bling bling became the
Well,
fad,
I
huh?
guess. I guess. You put it that way, yeah, I
Okay.
was.
So that was one of the jobs you had. What would you say was your favorite job of all the jobs that you had as a young lady?
My favorite job would have been babysitting. Everybody works as a babysitter when you're young. A girl, anyway, pretty much.
Hmm.
But I had an experience where, well, first of all, I started my babysitting service, mind you, at 10 years old.
Okay.
Okay. And when we relocated from South Carolina to Baltimore for a few years, I met this little girl who had Down syndrome. And her mother just thought that I was wonderful with her. And the little girl was so taken with me that when the mother, who was a nurse, when she worked one weekend a month, she had me come over to her house, spend the weekend, and take care of her daughter and her son, as a matter of fact. She had two kids that were Down syndrome, and I took care of both of them. And I did that for about 2.5, almost 3 years.
Okay. Now that's interesting that one of your favorite jobs was babysitting. Since you state you never had any aspirations to get married or have children of your own. So during those times, I mean, did you date? Did you?
Well, first of all, let me say, I was only 13 when I had that responsibility.
Okay.
A whole house to myself on a weekend, 13 years old. But no, I did not date. I was too young for
You was too young for that.
that.
Got you.
Yes. I didn't start dating until I was about 16, almost 17 years old.
Okay.
I was a late bloomer.
Late bloomer.
Yeah.
I guess that would be late. I don't know. That might be late for today's times
Exactly.
as
That's what I
well.
mean. It's late for today's time, but I have been always a shy person, ironically. And because of that, I've never been, if there was someone that I was interested in, they probably would never know unless they were interested in me as well and express that. Other than that, I'll just keep it to myself.
Okay. So what a lot of people in the dating scene today, there's a lot of talk about what is a perfect date or a great date. Back in those days when you were dating, what was a good date for you?
Well, let me say this. Even though I was a shy person, there was a time when I was in high school that technically I dated more than one person per evening. I mean,
Okay.
see, what would happen is like this. Don't say it like that. It's
Well, I
really,
mean, I understand. You know, I know, but we
it's
just
not that bad. What would happen if I'm not in a committed relationship, clearly, if you call me and we talk about going out to dinner, I would say, okay, 7 o'clock. All well and good. I'm not riding with you. I'm using my own transportation. So when we leave there, if somebody else wants to go to the 9 o'clock movie, sure. Okay. So a perfect date for me is dinner, and that was it. Dinner and a movie. That was a perfect date. And I like having conversations. I don't like my time to be totally spent on the screen. If we're going to dinner and a movie, we're going to talk. After
okay.
the movie, we're going to talk.
All right. What kind of dinners did you like to go to have?
I don't like fast food.
You don't like fast food, so you like the fancy restaurants.
I wouldn't say fancy.
Well,
I
you
just like to be able to sit down and look at the menu and order
so look at the menu and order
a meal,
a meal.
entree, an appetizer,
Okay.
dessert.
Okay. Okay. So, and eventually you ended up becoming a wife and then a mom. How did that happen?
Well, well,
As if I don't know, right?
right. You want the short version or the
Yeah,
long version?
give the short version. We say the long version for
Okay.
uh, the
Okay.
book.
Oh, okay. The short version.
Hmm.
I had a friend from high school, actually childhood, and I spent quite a bit of time at her house. She actually lived around the corner from me. She had leukemia, and she died. And unfortunately, it took me by great surprise. Anyway, while I was there at her house, there was a young man who expressed interest in me. I just was not feeling that. And so he tried to walk me to my car. I was not trying to hear that. And I had a good reason. They told me bad things about it. But anyway, I didn't see him anymore for like, I guess about a month. And when I finally did see him, it was a fluke that we even saw each other again. But anyway, long story short, he took my car and washed. It was so dirty. I didn't even realize how dirty it was. And he timed it. His timing is pretty good. He asked me out on a date, and I was going to say no, but I saw the car, and I was like, yeah, but I set it for a week away so I could get out of the date. But anyway, we went on a date, and I took my brothers. I was going to have my brother sit right between us because I didn't know him. They said bad things about him. So the brothers peeled out on me. I was so mad at them. But anyway, we, we had the date. We went to see the movie, and I was like, okay. Anyway, after I got to know him, because he called me that whole week that I was planning on canceling the date, I realized that he was quite an intelligent man and that he was quite talented. And he was funny. He used to make me laugh all the time. He still does.
Okay. I noticed you said used to.
He still does. He
Okay.
cracks me up.
All right.
And we started dating. And next thing I know, I realized I was falling in love with him. So I tried to break up. And he wasn't having it. As a matter of fact, he told me I was difficult. So you really
But
have to look like that.
but in the end, you ended up getting married to the
We
guy.
got married. Then I had my first child in 1987, and I had my second child in 1989.
Okay, and little girls. Your proud hearts.
Two little girls. Lord help me. Anyway, two little girls.
And I know growing up with them, raising the two little girls, would you think it was easier then when you were raising them back in '87 than it is now?
I would say back then, yes, it was easier back then. The things that I see parents having to deal with nowadays, I'm so thankful that my children are grown. I watch my daughter with her son, and I think to myself, thank you, God, that times are different in when I raised my kids.
Right. So, like you said, they're going through a lot of different things.
Definitely.
So, the question now is like discipline. Like now, you really can't discipline your kids at all because you've got some agency or police or whatever telling you what you can do or you can't do to your
Mm-hmm.
kids. So, like when you would discipline your kids, what were some of the things that you did, although you didn't have to worry about, a child's services or anything? What were some of the things that you used to discipline the girls?
Well, first of all, I have to say I was hard on the kids. I was very hard on them because I didn't think I was going to be around. But for instance, this is a perfect example. I would say, clean your room. They share the room. I would say, clean your room. Okay, they know my standard of clean. So if you tell me that the room is clean, that's what I expect to do. If I walk in and I see that it's not, then that's an issue. So one day, that's exactly what happened. I took a hefty trash bag and put everything that I saw that was out of place on the floor, the bed, the dresser, and the closet, and all that stuff in the trash bag and sat outside for the trash man. Kids came home and wanted to know, Mommy, where's all our stuff? I said, oh, well, I cleaned up the room. I know, but Mommy, where's all our stuff? It's outside. We didn't see it. It's in the trash bag. They almost killed themselves getting outside to get that bag because fortunately they got home before the trash man did, which I knew that was going to be the case. But it was a lesson to them. Okay, you I give you chances. It was a lesson for them to learn, okay, this is your responsibility. It's your room. You made it dirty. You should clean it up. And that was a lesson I never, ever had to teach again. But generally, punishment would work, except for with that youngest girl. Punishment didn't always work with her.
Okay. Now, I noticed you said that you may have thought that you wasn't going to be around. So leading up to your diagnosis of MS, when did it occur to you that there might be something wrong? Not that you actually knew that you had MS, but maybe I need to get checked out.
Well, I worked in an office job, corporate, but I was I noticed I kept having trouble with my left eye. It was running all the time, and my vision would change. It would go from like blurry to not being able to see sometimes, or double or whatever. And I was like, this is not right. Now I knew I mean, I wore glasses. I've been wearing glasses since I was 12 years old. But when you get a new prescription 3 times within 6 months, there's an issue. And that's what it was that alerted me to there being a huge problem somewhere.
Okay. So when you went through some testing and trial and error and discovered that you had multiple sclerosis, what went through your mind when you learned of that?
Well, first, let me say my doctor told me, he said it's going to be one of two things. He said, you're either going to have a brain tumor or it's going to be MS. I started praying for the brain tumor.
Really?
Really.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if it was MS, it was going to be a life of unpredictability. And I had 2 small kids and a husband. And I was in my 20s. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world am I going to be able to manage all of this? So having a brain tumor seemed like the easiest thing to do as long as it wasn't malignant. I figured just shave my head, cut it out, and we're good.
Okay. So once you were diagnosed with the MS, how did it affect your life? Were there any major changes that you had to do? I mean, in the early stages, of course.
Well, everything changed. Absolutely everything changed. Simply because before I got diagnosed, before I started getting sick, I worked a full-time job and a part-time job, had 2 kids, raised them, did things with my husband and everything. I was nonstop all the time. But in the early stages, I was sick all the time. So I couldn't run around and do things like that like I did before. I had to pace myself and I had to realize, okay, look, if you want to be able to go to school and volunteer in the kids' classroom tomorrow, you got to take it easy today.
Right.
And so it was things like that. I had to actually sit down and really plan things out. I knew that if I wanted to have dinner done by a certain time, it wasn't going to take me 30 minutes to cook like it used to. It might take me 3 hours to cook. So I had to plan things out and make sure that I didn't overstress my body so that I could do all the things that I wanted to do. So my whole outlook on life changed completely because it was a matter of planning, not so much sacrifice, but detailed planning for me.
Okay. And as I well know that you did do a lot of planning with things going on in your life. Now, a lot of people might look at you and they'll say, well, there's nothing wrong with her. She looks fine. But a lot of things they don't realize when a lot of MS patients are, they have good days and they have bad days. And unfortunately, bad days keep them pretty much restricted to home stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they never really see that part.
Right,
You only see them when they're feeling good and out.
right.
So when you do have those days when you're feeling good and you're out, what are there any sacrifices that you have to make? You
Oh,
know, just
yes. If I have a good day and I'm out, that doesn't mean I can just run rampant and free. That means I have to pace myself. I can't do too much today because it's going to tell on me tomorrow. So I might be feeling good and I might say, I think I want to go grocery shopping. Okay, I have a choice when I get to the grocery store. I can either ride in the cart, the motorized cart, or I can push a cart. Now, depending on how I feel, I might feel like, oh, well, I can push the cart. I'm good. But if I've done a whole lot of stuff that day where I've been really active, it's not going to be advantageous for me because that MS is going to hit me later on that evening. And the next day, I might be stuck in the bed because I did too much the day previously. So even though I may not feel like I want to ride in the cart, that might be the smart thing to do.
okay.
Though I don't like doing that at all.
I'm sure you don't. So with all of that in mind, what gives you strength and helps you to make it through each day, even your bad days?
First and foremost, I have a great relationship with God. I pray all the time. But above that, in conjunction with that, actually, is my attitude. I feel like a positive attitude is half the battle. I don't care what you have physically wrong with you. I think if you think negative thoughts, if you concentrate on negative things, I think it is reflected in your body and that you get sick. That's the way I feel it is for me. So I try to think positive thoughts. I try to surround myself with positive people. I try to do positive things. If I'm feeling bad, I watch cartoons. I like Looney Tunes. Or I color. I will get a crayon. I like crayon. And a coloring book. Sit down and color. Take my time and do a nice artistic coloring of a picture. And that makes me happy. I feel better.
That's
Or
good.
sing.
Or saying, oh, L.J. Thomas, the singer?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. Well, see, other people don't get to hear it, so we're good.
Okay.
But I, turn the music up, songs that I like, old school. I just walk around the house and sing, or stuck in the bed and sing, and I'm happy. Singing makes you happy.
Well, I happen to know that you got a pretty good voice, and one day maybe we'll let your viewers
You see the look on my face. You see
see
that?
another talented side of LJ. Now
Okay.
you mentioned earlier about your grandson.
Hmm.
So with dealing with the MS and of course, toddlers are very very energetic and trying on you. How does your MS come into play with dealing with him and things like that?
First of all, he understands that grandma is sick. He's been helping me walk with my cane since he was born and since he could walk. So there are times that he realizes that I can't do the things that he wants to do because my legs are hurting or because I can't physically get up and do it. In those instances, he runs around and gets things for me. For instance, when he comes over to play, the rule is one toy at a time. But if he happens to get more than one, and if I get up to go in the kitchen, he makes sure he moves all those toys out of the floor. Because, Grandma, I don't want you to fall and hurt yourself. It's so cute.
Okay.
But I appreciate that because while I don't want him to see me being sick, he's been to the hospital and all that stuff. He understands. And I think that makes him a more compassionate little boy. He doesn't, a lot of kids frown on people that they see with sickness and assisted, yeah, assistive devices. He's not that little kid at all. As a matter of fact, he's very helpful. And I appreciate that.
Okay. So it looks like you got a good bit of support and positive things going on around you to help keep you going.
Yeah.
So with that saying, what's the current mission LJ Thomas is on?
LJ Thomas is always on a mission of being positive every day, 24/7. So clearly, purely positive is a part of that. I am on the mission of not only living a positive life, being a positive person in my thinking and my actions as an example, but showing other people what it's like when other people do positive things as well. I spotlight positive people doing positive things for a positive community.
Okay. Throw that tagline in there. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so now with you talking about the positivity that helps you make it through each day, you were diagnosed with MS in
80, no,
93, right?
93.
93. Okay, so a lot of people, even your doctors, have said, hey, to say that you've been living with MS this long, you're doing really good. I mean, there are a lot of people who that have been diagnosed since you and have passed away because of complications.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say that you're trying to stay positive all the time and keep positive things around you contributing to you lasting the amount of time you've lasted with MS?
I would. I would say that. As a matter of fact, I think your mindset is half the battle. Clearly, it is, especially for me. But I think that mindset, along with always doing my physical therapy. I do my physical therapy exercises every single day. I don't miss them. No, I don't go to the therapist and do them. No, they don't come to the house. But there's some exercise I can do it while I'm watching TV. So that's what I do. And those things and making sure that I don't ever put myself in a situation where I say to myself or I think I need somebody to do this for me because I'm helpless or I'm disabled and I can't do it. You try to keep your independence for as long as you can, as long as it doesn't put you in danger or at risk of getting sick. And that's how I live my life.
Okay. So now with that being said, what would you say you would want to be your general legacy to the world in general?
That's a good question. My legacy to the world. I would like for LJ Thomas's legacy to the world to be, you can do it. You can do it. Be positive and you can do it. Don't give up simply because there are some obstacles in the way. We all have those. Find a way around that obstacle where it doesn't negatively or adversely affect you or hurt you, and you can still accomplish what you've done, what you want to do. I say that because I got 2, almost 3 degrees with MS, raised my kids, my greatest accomplishment, have been married 30 plus years, and have lived a happy life. I'm happy all the time. I don't have anything to complain about.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that as well.
I bet you are.
And so now, with that being said, what would be the encouragement that you would want to pass on specifically to MS patients?
It's hard. I know it's hard, but you got this. Don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of times we feel like, oh, I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it. I don't need anybody's help. Sometimes you do. And sometimes the people that you who are around you the most and who are the closest, they see you needing help. They want you to have your independence. Don't get so upset with them. Don't always think that they're trying to keep you from doing things. That's not it. It's just a matter of them not wanting you to do too much because they know what's going to happen. You'd be surprised how the people who are around you, your caregivers, how much they see that they don't say to you. And it took me a long, long, long time to learn that. I used to get so upset because I was like, I can do this stuff, but nobody wants me to. They want to stop me from having fun. That's not what it was. They just didn't want me to get sick and have a bad flare-up. I just didn't get it.
You do get it now.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
That's good. All right. So now there are other people who suffer when it comes to MS, and they're not the ones that have the illness. What encouragement would you give to the MS caregivers, the people who care for the people who suffer with MS?
I would say, number one, your facial expressions mean a whole lot. I mean, and I say that with a laugh simply because I remember times that my caregivers have said, sit down, take it easy. But their facial expression said, I'm annoyed and I'm angry with you. And because that's what their face said, I became annoyed and angry. So not only think about what you say, but how you say it and how you look when you say it, because all of that plays into the mindset, into that particular situation. I would also say to caregivers, realize that the people that you're caring for, they have a level of independence that they want to maintain. They don't want to give up that independence. They don't want to feel like an invalid or a person who needs help. So help them help themselves as much as you possibly can. And if you do that, then it will be a much smoother situation, even when they can't do something or when they do need help. And don't be afraid to offer help. Don't make a demand. Look, you can't do this. I need to do this for you. No, offer assistance. And that makes a difference.
Well, LJ, I am sure your audience is so glad that you shared this information with them.
Yeah.
As I know you are you're a sharing, caring individual besides being a purely positive person. And we want to thank you for this time. Keep doing what you're doing. And of course, I'll keep supporting you as the best way I can in every way. And you know, I love you and support everything you do.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. We'll see you soon for season 3 of Purely Positive. Thanks for watching. Be blessed and be positive.